My name's John. I'm from New York. Today we're going to be talking about the Metaverse, but not in like the stereotypical way. You know what I mean? Like at dinner last night during like the pre-dinner, it came up. It's like, what the hell, Metaverse? Why are you talking about the Metaverse? Isn't that done? Like literally that came up at dinner, and it's my thesis is it's not done. You know what I mean? It is disruptive, and my cheese is constantly being moved, and I prefer to be the one moving it. You know what I mean? So we're going to talk about Metaverse, and I'm going to talk about a bunch of different technologies and ideas that have all led up to this point, you know, for me and for the industry, right? When I was a little boy, when I was a little kid, I worked with my grandfather in the darkroom. I was like 9. And it was all slide projectors. And we had 9 of them. And we had a reel-to-reel. And this was multimedia, you know, in like the early 80s. And reel-to-reel would drive all the slides. And then we had a 16 mil. And then I was helping him do time lapses. And I was helping him do all this stuff and develop. And so like, I've been in the industry a long, long time. And I went from there to like producing slides and subtitles for operas, you know? And so like I'd be projecting like codolith images and stuff. So this is me, I'm John Engstrom. I was first assistant for people like David LaChapelle, Patrick Demoshelier, Peter Beard. These were like my mentors. And in each of those cases, I was the one who sort of brought those guys into the digital world, you know, like 20 years ago. I'm also a cinematographer. I just wrapped a feature, so I'm sleep deprivated. Got bit by a spider last night in my hotel, and I haven't slept in days, you know, like including last night. I'm on 5 cups of coffee, and I don't have Tourette's, so like if I, you know what I mean? Entrepreneur, I own a company named called Scheimpflug. And I've flown all over Earth, you know, mainly with LaChapelle. Any person you can name, I've shot them. You know, from Obama to I've worked for Obama actually. Everybody, like I've worked with everybody. This is David. I did a ton for David, like 16 years for David during the 90s and 2000s. And again, like I was the guy who put the first digital camera in his hand and said, let's do this. My company, Scheimpflug, we work on assets for video games. Like, so I scan people for video games. And I do a lot of VFX, like this for Picard. And I'll show you some of this tech and stuff that we do. And I have a bullet time rig, which I can create instantly shareable and regrettable experiences. And then I've done a lot with the Metaverse, of course. My company also has a wing where we just provide grip trucks and lighting. I was a lighting designer for a long, long time, and a camera house. So for 3 locations in New York City, the VFX studio is 40,000 square feet. It's based at Zero Space. And I operate the 2 scanning rigs there. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the history of it, and some of the tech of the past that it's all kind of led to this, right? This moment. And so VR. I worked for Doug Lyman, and I was the DP on this project called Invisible, which was a VR series. Pretty amazing, pretty interesting, like really had to cut my teeth on, you know, no one was doing it, you know, so I did a lot of VR, I did a lot of VR experiences. I worked for National Geographic on some VR experiences and shareable type things and programs. We did VR streaming, that's my little boy, we would stream live VR events, right? I own 250 Nikon cameras. I've owned the same Nikon camera, like I've owned some of the same lenses since I was like a little boy. And I still make money with them today. This is 120 of them. And we did bullet time. We started in bullet time. This is maybe maybe a decade ago, but we still do it today. And again, it was like for TV shows, we did TV shows, we did live events, and it was always like live, like you could just go up and press a button like at a photo booth kind of thing. You press the button and it's like, bam, they all go at the same time. And then we could ramp in and ramp out of the frozen moment while we're changing perspective, right? By having, like I could trigger, we built our own triggers and did all this development of this stuff. And then during like one of these projects, one of my friends said, hey, you know, you have 250 DSLR cameras and 250 lenses, and it was sort of like falling up the stairs. He was like, why don't you do 3D scanning? And so he helped me, and his name's Joe. He works out of London, one of the best 3D dudes in the world. And we work for all the biggest people. He works for all the biggest people. And he helped me design these two rigs. And so we poured tons of money into it, and I have a head rig, and then I have a body rig. And so you put your talent in the middle of it, you know, in a pretty generic pose in their underpants. I've seen every celebrity in their underpants. Like it just, you know, they get in there and then you do these, and then we can rig them and then dance them around and create, you know, like wear the ping pong balls and like wear the 3D people around. So I don't do that aspect of it. I just kind of create the assets. That's my bit of it. We can take it on the road, and you know, it is portable, and we've traveled all over. We had a job. We're sending it to Mexico, I think, next week. It's a little bit of anxiety. I never had a good experience in Mexico. Anyway, but so like this was like for the calves. We can create these 3D assets that they can use for either video games or for all kinds of different uses. We also have a whole bunch of 4K cameras. And so we can put the dots on the face, and then we can do live volumetric capture, right? Where we're animating everything real time without wearing ping pong balls, right? On top of this, we've done a lot with LiDAR, right? So LiDAR, we like scan spaces, and so we've scanned a whole bunch of various spaces and done set extensions digitally, and so like we work in that realm too. Assets like 3D products, things like shoes or rabbit heads. That's a submarine. We did M. Night Shyamalan's latest movie, I think Cabin in the Woods, like where they have all the weapons, a lot of the weapons and projectiles. We have I don't want to say we have a library. We don't have any library. We just scan it and then give it to them, and then it's like, bye, you know, go whatever you're going to do with this thing. We literally just don't store it. But we scan every weapon, and that way they can just be projectiles or thrown in the film and hit someone without actually hitting them. Lots of products for AR experiences. We did, we scanned, this is Justin Bieber. I don't have the whole video. I didn't want to subject you guys to the latest Justin Bieber video. But you know, he's really nice and cool, and it was great to work with. But we scanned him, and then we did this whole Metaverse, you know, experience where he's like dancing around in the Metaverse. So I worked on that. Worked on a whole lot of different movies. Basically anything out of New York, like anything shooting in New York or anything with New York talent. They all kind of come through our rigs, and we scan their head, we scan their body. Austin Butler from Elvis came in. I didn't even know who he was. You know, he's just like, hey, I'm here to, you know, get my skin, you know? And it's just like, it's like, great. I'm like, what are we doing, you know? And he's like, oh, I'm working for Baz Luhrmann. I'm like, okay, get ready for your life to change, and it did. So it's been really wonderful and really fun to see all these, you know, people kind of go through and see the assets being used and see Austin get aged. You know, like I don't do that aspect of it, but you know, I create the best 3D Austin Butler. You know, I create the best, you know, Rosario Dawson. You know, AR experiences. I'm involved with some companies who are doing things to not only animate these 3D assets, but also they're developing an app. So like you could pull out a phone and say you're in Central Park, like, and my friend Stacy, who works for Christie's, is like, well, how could you do that? You know, maybe we 3D scan their whole library, and then I could put everything in Central Park 300 feet tall, you know, using geotagging, you know what I mean? And then you could see it only through the app, you know what I mean? So like we could just walk through, and there's been all kinds of things that we're involved with that I can't talk, like none of this stuff I can talk about, you know what I mean? It's like NDAs, like everywhere, like NDAs. So, but let's just say, like, let's land a spaceship in a stadium and have a bunch of characters run out and then go run up into the stands. And then, like, you know, they're all dancing around, you know, on the field, and then they just run up into the stands, and then you can just go out and just run to your favorite character and say, like, you know, hey, you know, and, you know, have your picture taken with Chewbacca or whoever, yeah, whatever. So, not Chewbacca. I didn't say Chewbacca. It's not Disney. Sorry. But you get the idea. You're integrating like this experience. You know, and it's coming. I feel it coming. Everything that I used to do is kind of like sort of eccentric and weird, and even this is eccentric and weird. So everything that I've done has been just kind of a little bit out there, but all of these things are sort of like coming together, and it's painting a real picture that, like, the cheese is being moved again. You know what I mean? The way we're selling things, the way we're buying things. My son, the thing that I didn't put up there is I am a father. I do have a boy. He's 14 years old, and he doesn't want to watch movies, you know? He's in the metaverse. He's built these like giant things in there, and all his friends are in there, and he's been in there for like 4 years. It's crazy. I can't get him out. Like, I try, but then I also go in and see what he's building and what he's doing and how he's interacting with people, and it's like he has a wife, you know? Like, there's just like it's crazy, you know? And I try, you know what I mean? And so it's like, as long as your grades are good, man, I don't care, you know? And he's like coding using, you know, he's smarter than I am, you know what I mean? And that's where our children are, you know what I mean? Why now? I think it's because the technology is here. It's changed. Everything that we've done in VR, everything that we've done in like scanning out, scanning in, and then all the technology, clouds and streaming, and all these different things have kind of like led up to this. And my child, anyway, is tired of just being talked to through a screen. You know, one-way media, just like everybody just like, he's not into it. He doesn't want to sit with the family and like watch a movie. He's like, I want to go out. Like, he wants it interactive. And I don't think he's alone. Like, I don't think he's alone because I've been too busy and sleep deprived and working way too much to, you know, to do all this, that it's not just my kid, you know? So consumer expectations, and this relates mainly to young children, you know, and to like even some of the 20-year-olds that I have on my team I run a team of like 65 people, and some of them are young. And I find I can't even really relate to, like, I'm like go touch grass kind of guy, you know what I mean? But they're really into esports. They're really into building things, and, you know, in the metaverse and creating things. They're into collecting NFTs. They're into interaction, social media, creating their own avatar, buying their own clothes. We're doing so much with clothes that I can't talk about too. You know, drape, fit, stretch, like all these different clothes aren't being done right in 3D yet. But if you know, it's coming. There's too many people working on it. It's coming, and fit is going to be a big, huge thing. And soon you shouldn't be buying clothes that don't fit. You know, there's just no reason. You know what I mean? It's going to be that good. The metaverse, you've all got it in your pocket, the phone part of the metaverse. I just recently checked into a hotel, And there's a screen there, and it's like, welcome, John Engstrom, gold medallion member, thank you for being here. Your gift basket is over here, all this crap. And they go like, would you like to have a beer delivered to you by a robot? Or would you like to send one to one of your friends? I'm like, oh my God, my crew had been working hard. And I'm like, this will be great. So I start sending beers to all my entire crew. You know what I mean? I didn't buy one for myself. But I mean, it's a new way of selling things. There's beer in the fridge. I don't want to just go and get a beer in the fridge. You know what I mean? I'm going to send a robot, And I go down, I write little notes, and the robot keeps coming in. You know what I mean? Going and dinging the elevator comes, it goes, it's in the elevator, it's just going out, you know what I mean? Just like delivering one beer at a time to my whole film crew. You know what I mean? And I think the bill was insane. You know what I mean? Friend of mine too, bought a refrigerator kind of thing. It's like, he kind of Googles it and it's like, man, these all suck. I don't want any of this in my office. And he's a rocker, and finally one comes up and says, and it's by Marshall, and it's 10 times the price of any other refrigerator, but it's in his feed. And so he's like, that's mine. You know what I mean? I got it. There's this new way. I'm going to run out of time. This thing's making me stress. We've done virtual events. I'm not allowed to say where I was. I was in basketball world for a while. The bubble, let's just call it the bubble. I was the tallest guy there that doesn't play. And we broadcast all this. And so for every game, it was in VR. And it was broadcast in VR, and you sort of sat at the baseline, and you're just watching. And I did everything in VR that I normally do, and I didn't know the back end of it, you know what I mean? And then they give me a headset. They put my headset on, and it's like I sit in this theater, and then I look around, all my friends there. All of my friends are there that I'm Facebook friends with are sitting next to me. And they're all different avatars and all this stuff. I don't know if any of you have ever experienced this. But anyway, we were involved in that project, and a lot of times it's like one side's not talking to the other, so I didn't really know the whole scope, but I was just blown away. And there's all these different opportunities in there to pay money, subscription-based things, and pay for virtual events. These things are happening. This is all the metaverse. There's virtual storefronts. We're working on all kinds of stuff with our LiDAR scanner, with our product scanners, with people, and having virtual ambassadors kind of come out and talk, and your favorite basketball player could just walk out into the stands too and start talking to fans, in a very safe environment without, any potential for, frenzy. In-game commerce is huge. Minecraft, Fortnite, Roblox, we've done all kinds of stuff. My kid's actually in all of those, which is scary. Here's some numbers. I didn't memorize any of this, but it's millions and millions of people. And from memory, I think Hollywood the Hollywood box office was $22 billion, right, last year. And in gaming and the metaverse, this whole, what I'm talking about here, it was almost 200 billion. It was just far, gaming has made Hollywood, the CEO of Netflix was like, I don't compete with HBO, and I'm going to blow this so bad because I'm so sleep deprived and 5 coffees, but he's like, I don't compete with HBO, I'm competing with Fortnite, and I'm losing in a terrible, terrible way, and it's because all these children, all these young people, they want the interaction. They want Vans. Vans just, it was Vans. They just had this thing where you could design your own shoes. And sales went crazy. All these kids were designing all their own, patterns and logos and everything. And they're sort of designing all this in 3D. And then there's just been a new way of selling things. Virtual marketplaces, it's connected to virtual storefronts, but there's going to be places like, and whether it's Amazon or whether it's Meta or Decentraland, there's going to be like groups of stores and groups and lots of different opportunities to sell things. And in China, it's even bigger, I think, than here. Here's what is it? 300 billion 2022, and it'll be 600 billion this year. That's the projection. We'll see. Anyway, I had more, but that's basically it with the time that we got. If you guys have questions or want me to.
All right, everybody.
Thank you.
All right. So I would imagine there's probably a bunch of questions. And this will pop up here. Okay. Let's see. The first one is, how can the virtual experience address product, texture, feel, and fabric?
You can't touch it, but you can definitely see texture. And we're working on that, like I was saying, we're working on that very rigorously. That's the number one thing. I think that there's a lot of really brilliant minds that are all coming together, and everybody's like racing to get that. It's almost like the ChatGPT versus it's like that with 3D, because whoever figures out fit, how things are, but you'll never be able to touch it. That you'll have to do in person, but you're not doing that in e-com anyway. So the ability to like sort of make it big, flip it around, look inside. There's a slide missing. I didn't talk about. There's a slide missing. I don't know how. We during there's one. Maybe I glazed past it. We created the people who sort of helped me put my rig together also did Carvana, and so Carvana, they have a bullet time rig in numerous towns, and so you can flip the car around, look inside of the car, and it was like the whole premise of their business, and it did really well. And that was the same guys who helped me build mine. They're Flug guys. And they sort of broke off and just like, bye, we're gonna go do this. And it did a lot for selling cars, and the way we buy cars is a lot different. And I know a lot of people who are buying cars from Carvana. The same thing now with 3D. It's like you're going to be able to like sort of manipulate and move things around and see texture. You'll see it. It's there. Like it just depends on how much detail you get. And then once we figure out drape and pattern, like because you have a size 1, it's like, how does it look on me? And it's like, but then you have some woman that's like, 5 times the size, the pattern, changes. Because there's more of it on her than there is on the size 0 or 1. So all this stuff is being worked out, and fit is a definite. But I'm not the guy. Like I do my thing, but I'm watching it. You know what I mean? And I am part of it. But it's like I have my little sliver of information, and it's very interesting.
Can you speak a little bit more to the? You said China is at 300 million and billion and going to 600 billion. Like how are they? What are they? What are they creating?
I have to go back.
What are e-commerce experiences, or like what? Like
they're creating a like a virtual reality e-commerce experience, and they're doing all kinds of things in 3D. Yeah.
Okay. And so like you could go in, hold up.
Streaming, kind of like the old. I don't even remember what those shows were called, like QVC kind of things. But now it's
only
like
interactive.
streaming, interactive, and you're sort of in there. So, and I haven't spent a lot of time in there myself. I research a little bit. I own some Chinese stocks that I got rid of, but it is growing. The stuff that we're doing is growing even more in China than it is here.
Sure.
So they're like all like very much engaged in that.
Very cool. All right, let's see. Do the heavy goggles deter people from exploring Metaverse more? How soon do you see VR changing from goggles to comfortable glasses?
There's a big war going on there too. I don't see it happening this year. I think it's going to come. I think the Google Glass was ahead of its time, but I don't think it necessarily has to be glasses. I mean, there's so many other things and other ways that you could be in the metaverse just with your phone. You know, you don't have to necessarily have that virtual reality experience, you know. I certainly won't be riding the subway with a VR headset. So, you know, I think it's on the way, and there's a lot of people working on it, and there's billions being invested in it because there's billions in it. And gaming kind of leads the way, but I think that other people are starting to see it is fairly disruptive. You know, the tech is fairly disruptive. So,
and then a question that I have is, when you were talking about being able to look around and see all your friends in that experience, did you have to have a scan of yourself, or are you just an avatar at that point?
No, at that point you're an avatar.
Okay.
And Facebook has this sort of amazing, you know, you just dive into Oculus and you create your avatar.
Okay.
And so it's like, you know, your friend will be all dressed up, but you'll see their name.
Yeah.
You'll see their name. It's like, holy shit. And they'll talk to you. You know what I mean? They'll like sit next to you and go like, hey, John, what's up? And you're like, what? Like, who is this? And it's like, it's Ryan, you know? Anyway. But yeah.
This is a VR experience, right?
Like we look like cartoons. And then there would be a basketball game in front of us.
Yeah, 100%.
And then when we're not working, we take the headset off and go to the water slide with the Celtics.
Yeah.
You know, and eat Rice Krispie treat. You know, or with like that's what I did for like however many months.
This next question was something I was curious about as well. How close are we to having a broadly available body scan so we can shop virtual storefronts and actually try on clothes?
They're out there already. They're not very good. Like ours is insane. You know, it's like that's crazy detail. You know, you can wave something over somebody and get a scan, but it's not good. I think we're a ways away from that, but I think that's coming. I think that you're going to find store experiences that install these things, and you know we'll go from just people to being 3D volumes, and it's happening that with streets, with roads, everything. They're scanning everything, so it makes sense that you know we're going to be scanning ourselves more. I know there's a lot of privacy concerns, and people are so freaked out about data, and it's like, how about like your body volume, like just kind of being out there, and there's people freaked out about it, but I think that there's the good outweighs the bad here, you know, in terms of like finding something that fits, you know, like finding something that looks good that you can try on, and you don't just hit buy and then instant regret, you know, when you open it and go like, oh my God, you know, 12 pounds of sausage and an 8-pound skin, you know, whatever. Sorry.
All right, if you could create a product that can be used by photographers, would you? And if you did, would it be AI photography?
AI photography. I don't think no, I'm not that smart. No, I've created things for photographers. I've helped create things for photographers, but I don't think, you know, like my part of it is just like the scanning and the acquisition of data side, and maybe we make some patents on some things, but I'm so busy. Like, it just sounds terrible. But yeah, thanks for the question. I'm kind of terrified of AI too, but I'm also intrigued. You know, it's interesting, but I know, like, you know, the robots are coming. You know. But I do think that AI will use our data, and that's scary to me. The AI will use like the 3D data that I could produce of like your head, you know, and they can make you do, you know what I mean? It's like if I had any of you in a 3D thing, you know, and throw you into AI, like they'll be able to do amazing things, like in AI with 3D. And once that all comes together, it's a little bit terrifying.
When you're using that big body rig that seems to go over and around and everything,
yeah,
what kind of like how much data are you using just to get a scan,
It's-
like on a single body? And I know it's probably ballpark.
It's
but
26 computers with 130 cameras and like tons of IP addresses and things that go wrong. You know what I mean? Like, this is a lot of problems. Headache. What was the question?
like how much how much data?
How much data?
Are we
It's
talking-
insane amounts of data.
Yeah.
It's but imagine like it's 130. Say it's 130 raw files.
Yeah.
They're 6K cameras, which we're using the stills out. So I don't remember the math on that. You guys probably know the math better than I do in terms of what each shot is. But I know it's like a 4 terabyte drive every time we go out is what I bring,
okay.
and then
Yeah.
I bring 2 of those, even though they're stills.
Yeah.
So, and then if we start rolling on like the Bieber thing, we rolled on his face, and we had all these 4K cameras, all like, so just imagine they're all 4K cameras doing like 5 minutes of footage. And it's like, holy cow, it's a lot of data. So you start adding it up, but we can do it with less. For the 4K cameras, it's less, but it's still like 30 cameras, just burning for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And you don't really want it that compressed, so you're not like, oh, let's try HD and see if we get, it's like all fuzzy and you're missing data. So.
All right, next one is, will Hollywood eventually incorporate interactive AR and metaverse aspects into movies to eventually surpass its significance in video games? So will they effectively fight video games with their own?
I think the war is going on now. Yeah. In fact, some of the directors that I work for are, they're like, I'm not working on the next film, I'm working on the next like Call of Duty. So Hollywood directors are already in the metaverse or in gaming, and producing. So the worlds are absolutely colliding, So I don't know what the answer is in terms of, how we move forward into this like brave new space. But it's going to be an interesting thing to watch unfold for sure. And I don't think Hollywood's going to sleep on it. I think that there'll be some cool storytelling opportunities in there. Where like we worked with you saw the Rosario Dawson slide. That was for Dying Light 2, which is amazing. And if you've ever played it, like I never played the games, but when I did, and you're just like start winning, it's like the effect of you winning changes the entire city and landscape around you. So it's like interactive that, if you win, the colors of the city change. Wow. And so it's very much like the decisions that you make decide sort of, not only if you win, but like the whole landscape of the experience. And if Rosario is your friend or if you're your foe.
What is your suggestion for studios hoping to stay abreast of these changes? What can they start to implement to prepare for the advancements? Hire you?
Yeah. I'm busy. It's like I should have been on the panel about being burned out. I don't know why I wasn't invited to that. Like. I'm John. I'm a workaholic, and this is not my first meeting. What can they do to prepare? I think start playing with 3D and start like understanding what's happening. I'm not saying it's here yet. I'm not saying like Amazon better watch out. Like it's you're fine. But it's definitely the cheese is being moved, and let's like continue to watch it unfold. And I would definitely start playing with it, and I would definitely start getting your head around what's going on. I don't necessarily think you got to be the first guy out there, because I think the first people out there, like me, are like constantly getting clobbered. You know what I mean? I'm just like relentless. I was a defenseman in hockey, so I was like, it was always like disrupt and get punched in the face, and then they take the penalty, and I'm like, what? Because I'm used to it. You know what I mean? Like just getting knocked down and knocked down and knocked down, and that's kind of what it's felt. But it's like becoming more and more and more relevant as all this technology evolves. And there's going to be opportunities, and there's a whole lot of things coming that I sort of know about that are in their infancy. Like we're in the donkey cart status of this, and it's going to just really unfold. And I think they're going to be. I think you just stay educated, stay educated and stay in tune with it, and it'll present, and just start getting your head around. There are new ways to tell stories. There's new ways to sell things, and don't let them move your cheese. Move it yourself.
I love it. I know there's some other questions here, but we are running out of time, and I will get in so much trouble if we continue. But those questions, I'm sure John would be happy.
I'll be around.
Yeah,
if I'm not sleeping.
At the after party. Everyone, please give John a big round of applause.
Thank you.